Okay, let's talk about failure.
Yeah.
So what's a big failure in your past? And you can define failure however you want. And how did you learn and grow from it?
Yeah, I think I have so many failures. I'm so good at failing. And our ability to endure failure and rejection will determine our success. But one of my biggest, most embarrassing, humiliating, shameful failures, I'd say, is also the reason I stopped drinking. I was out at my buddy's bachelor party in New Orleans, and we were on Bourbon Street, and I got obliterated, and I was not there consciously. Tragedy is, or comedy is tragedy plus time, so I can laugh now, but this is serious. So I got hammered, and Mike Tyson says everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And that's exactly what happened to me. I got hammered. I picked a fight with a college running back. I don't know if he was at Tulane or LSU, so it must have been pretty damn strong. I was being an asshole. And I got knocked out with one punch. And I woke up in an ambulance. I'm like, what am I doing here? And my face was like destroyed. And the next day, I ended up having to fly home to my mom's 70th birthday. Imagine going to your mom's 70th birthday, your sweet mom. We're going to go to church that day, and my face is destroyed. It turns out I was concussed. She's like, why did you do this to me? And I felt like I did. I kind of ruined her birthday, right? And then I get back to Austin like a handful of days later, and my buddy who it was his bachelor party. I was going to be best man at his wedding. I wrote a speech where I cried tears of joy with all the beautiful stories, and I was ready to really just give an amazing speech. And we talked about me being best man for years. He said, "Hey, Chris, we need to let's talk." And he came over my place and he said, "Chris, you're a liability, and I can't have you at my wedding." And that friendship ended, and it's still, actually, we're out of communication. This was over a year ago, and what I realized from that is that when we mindlessly pursue impulses and pleasure, in fact, recklessly, we don't realize the absolute cascading impact it can have on other people. Did I go out mean to hurt my mom and ruin her birthday when I went out thinking I was going to just have a great time and get hammered in Bourbon Street? Absolutely not. I would have never expected that would happen. But by following that impulse, it led to that. I hurt my friend, and of course, I was so angry that he uninvited me from his wedding, but at the same time, I have an empathy. I was an asshole. Wasn't a good friend. I mean, that was so selfish to do that. And so it was really one of my greatest rock bottoms, so painful. And one of the most painful things was just psychologically, just hurting my mom. And then the embarrassment of going from best man, and I was going to crush the speech, right? I'm a motivational speaker in the making, to uninvited, and actually losing that friendship, that beautiful friendship. And so it wasn't the getting punched in the face by a running back where that guy knocked my lights out and my face was destroyed. It was the psychological pain. And I am so grateful for the gift of how painful that was, because it killed my motivation to drink, and I gave it up permanently. And for over a year, talk about freedom and transformation. And I was planning to give up drinking for years, right? And I would give it up 6 months at a time, but that killed my motivation, and it just gave me an appreciation for the power of subtracting bad habits, subtracting success assassins. I'm like, if I want to make a big impact for people and lift the world with words and encourage, I cannot afford, my vision cannot afford for me to drink. My future family cannot afford for me to drink. And so that is my greatest failure, I would say, far and away.
Yeah, that's such a great story. Yeah, I think it's also important to realize how much that was hurting yourself too. Because you emphasized what you were putting on other people, but then also it's you lost a friendship.
dude,
You had to go through that like physical damage to your body. And so, yeah, it truly was a gift to yourself.
And, what have I learned about willpower? We talked about it being like embedded in my identity of being persistent, but also you want to destroy your willpower, go drink and like be hungover, or do something so out of integrity like I did that it just absolutely demoralizes you. And of course, you come back from it. But like drinking is, talk about a success assassin. And I will say, going back to, this is the Willpower podcast, right? It's like, when you eliminate these negative habits, especially destructive ones like drinking, it can lead to like quantum leaps in performance. Over time, you're just like, you operate at a whole different level. And I will say that, and you've heard this, like, I would think like, it's not as much about willpower, but creating a context and environment where you have less distractions, where you can show up at your best. So I've noticed the power of eliminate a destructive habit and also stack positive ones, man. Like, I ice bath before this today. Not immediately before it, but I ice bath every day. I work out at Squatch Frontier Fitness. Shout out to Squatch. Check it out sometime if you want. Have you been? Quick
I haven't worked out there.
Okay.
I went to like an event there.
Cool. So ice baths, man, that boosts dopamine for up to 6 hours. And supposedly, I know this sounds dramatic, but I read like it gives you a better hit than nicotine or cocaine, and it lasts longer. So that's a natural way to like operate at your best. Working out every day. I did the Wim Hof method earlier. We did a little breath work exercise. Nice, dude. Air fist bump. So yeah, those habits, man, that creates a context where you're like, your willpower, you're not even counting on it. You're ready to go and you're consistent.
Yeah. I definitely resonate with the drinking. So I went through, just like, I was like a regular drinker, as in like, let's say every weekend or every other weekend, I would get like pretty drunk. And it felt like that. It felt like I was like making progress. And then I would have the drinking day and then I'd drop. And then I have to start back there, make some progress, boom. And it was like just a repeating pattern of constantly falling back. And I never was able to like continually just grow. And so for me, that I stopped also a little over a year ago, and that was huge.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have a friend on the same path, and so well put with the, making progress, taking a step back. Not that we won't have step backs in our lives, but when you eliminate drinking, you have much less of those.
Yes. And like you're imposing them on yourself when you're drinking.
Yeah.
It's like you're choosing to have those setbacks. Yeah. Do you want to dig into a little more about alcohol?
We could, yeah.
I'm curious what like role it played when you were drinking, how you used it and how you thought about it.
So when I was drinking, I always prided myself that I never wanted to drink on my own. I never consistently drank like every day, but it was on the weekends, as you described. And I think it was a way for me to completely give up control. Maybe I like something about that and get reckless. Like, let me give up control. But that giving up control sometimes would lead to some fun experiences, being wild, having some fun stories. But man, did it lead to destruction and disaster. And so, yeah, I think that was a core driver. It was just like letting go. And I talked with a good friend of mine who is also on this path and gave up drinking. And both of us, like when we had these crazy things happen, like getting in the fight for me, getting knocked out, life was amazing. That's the interesting thing. I never drank. Like when I was in a depression that I described in the pandemic, I stayed away from alcohol. It was when life was good. Mm-hmm. And there's something to be said for pride comes before the fall. I don't know if that's biblical. Of course, it's a common theme, like Icarus, he flew too close to the sun. And so what's interesting for me is some of my biggest like rock bottoms or issues came at times when I just felt on top of the world leading up to it. And I said, I'm going to give up control. And then all of a sudden, I'm, waking up in an ambulance.